All right, this hangout is now live. Welcome to episode 7 of Star Trek Neutral Zone, a Star Trek Adventures role-playing game. This episode is titled On the Bubble. Just for a little recap, previously on Star Trek Neutral Zone, you guys are stationed aboard one of the major Federation star bases along the Romulan Neutral Zone. Federation starships patrolling this critical region routinely undergo maintenance inside SB-23's space dock. The starbase is also the focus of espionage, originating on both sides of the neutral zone. In the most recent episode, you guys successfully rescued a key member of the Romulan Reunification Underground from the clutches of the Tal Shiar. Previously, you've also uncovered a massive extra-legal surveillance program that seems to implicate some of Starfleet's most prominent admirals, including Bail Chathanis, the fleet admiral in charge of Starbase 23. The current stardate is 48712.4, and the USS Hyperion, a Galaxy-Class vessel under the command of Captain Jonas Levine, has docked at Starbase 23 to undergo warp core maintenance. But, other than that, it's been quiet on the station for a change. A good time for crew members to catch up on work or work on personal projects. And Lieutenant Thelev Chesirch has just such a project in mind. So I'm going to turn it over to Thelev, played by our intrepid Paul. So Paul, why don't you take it away to let us know what Thelev is up to?
Yeah, hi. I'm playing Lieutenant Thelev Chesirch, so I'm kind of a sort of Andorian Chekhov, but with an engineering bent. And yeah, I have a personal project at the moment, which I'd like you guys help with. So I don't know if you're aware, but part of my story is that my mentor, when I left Starfleet Academy, Captain Kerensky, who was a captain of engineering, was killed shortly before I came to Starbase 23 in a shuttle accident. Now, quite aside from the fact that this shuttle accident should not have happened in the first place, the local traffic controllers were unable to deploy emergency tractor beams and emergency transporters to save anybody aboard the shuttle. So in a lot of ways, the accident shouldn't have happened. And it's kind of bugged me ever since. So one of the things I've been working on fairly recently is a way of replacing human traffic controllers, or should we say organic traffic controllers, in these kind of situations with advanced artificial intelligence holographic traffic control, which is more capable when it comes to handling emergencies. So part of the design for this system is that the traffic control system, the AI, would be able to predict starship behavior, shuttlecraft behavior within its traffic pattern, and predict any potential issues that might be happening, and therefore deploy any sort of emergency measures a lot faster than any organic traffic controllers would. Now, it's going well, but I've got a couple of issues that I need your help with, if that's okay, guys.
Sure.
No problem.
So there are two things I'm concerned about. The first thing is the security aspects of the system, because if this traffic control AI is in charge of the entire traffic pattern, say around Starbase 23, and somebody manages to hack it, then that could create a huge problem. So I need some help on the security side. I need somebody to help me to look at the security protocols for this AI and make sure that it's essentially as unhackable as possible. The other thing is I can't create just a straightforward AI. I have to have something that in some way can relate to organic beings, something that, should we say, has a psychological profile that allows it to behave correctly when it's dealing with ship's captains or anybody around the starbase. Kind of in the same way that the holographic doctor has a sort of personality, although from what I hear, it's not that good a personality. So I'm looking for some help on the kind of psychological side. I want somebody to help me to develop those personality protocols so that when the AI is in control, it's actually a pleasant personality to deal with. Doc, any chance you can help with that?
I think so, Lieutenant Research.
So it looks like we have the beginnings of a project team. It's just been me up until now. But if we can work together on this, I think we can produce something that might save lives.
Well, saving life is what I'm all about.
And drinking, from what I hear.
Of course. As a matter of fact, maybe I had to get something.
Okay.
A bottle of beer.
I'll start laying out a plan, and we'll get together and we'll see what we can do.
So I think this might be a good opportunity to use the scientific method rules that are in the core Star Trek Adventures rule book. And so step one in this process is just to observe data, gather data, observe, and identify a project lead. And so I think obviously in this case that would be Lieutenant Research. Step two is to hypothesize. At this stage, players are encouraged to throw out ideas on what might be happening while trying to fit them into the focuses for the category of the problem. The research lead then chooses between 3 and 5 of these ideas to use. These are called hypotheses, and the research lead may or may not have the skill focus, but they then explain these ideas to the game master. So if you could sort of describe for me maybe 3 or 5, among the 3 of you, not just Paul, but any of you can speak up, some hypotheses that your expertise might be able to fit into this process to make this artificial intelligence, this innovative use of artificial intelligence a reality. So what skills or specialties might each of your characters be able to bring to bear here?
From the doc, you would have the knowledge in xenobiology. He would input the necessary environment, inertial environment for docking procedures, the speed, and the rest.
Bedside manners.
Of course. It's absolutely the most important part.
Yes. Costello wanted to find out about that. I can try, although it is more engineering side to be dealing with security protocols and computers. We can try to look through obvious stuff because it's going to be along the lines of, it's not going to be like the movie Hackers where they're going in and just all typing in together. They're going to be fishing for that. So perhaps just standard company security protocols like long passwords, don't answer phishing emails, or phishing data pads.
Yeah, I want something that's going to be way more unhackable than that. This is going to take a lot of work, I think. I mean, I can see initially maybe 2 different approaches. So the first is to create a basic sort of program and then give it a huge amount of data to learn from. The way that AI systems were trained, back in the sort of 21st century. Luckily, we happen to be in a place where there is going to be a huge amount of data. So one of the things that I could start looking at is to essentially go through the Starbase 23 traffic logs for, let's say, the last few years, come up with the basic protocols for the application, and then start running the data sets through it to see how it behaves. The other approach is to treat this like a kind of genetic algorithm. So starting with essentially nothing, but a very, very basic sort of algorithm, giving it some sort of target protocol, so the way that I would like it to behave, and then feeding it the data and having it modify itself as it goes along in order to arrive at an end result that meets the target protocols.
That sounds like a brilliant idea, Lieutenant Research.
I do try.
Yeah, we could use that to model the neural network of various different alien species that we have on file, and yeah, it'll be able to adapt to different situations.
Yeah, I like that approach. Yeah. It's probably going to have to deal with a lot of different ships from a lot of different species. So if the AI could somehow adapt itself to their particular sort of ways of handling their ships, then yeah, that'd be perfect.
Which can be done.
Yeah. And also, you know, if it's, let's say the AI is contacting different ships to give them instructions, if it's, I don't know, an Andorian or a Vulcan ship, then perhaps the AI can present itself as an Andorian and a Vulcan. Yeah. Just to maybe make things a little easier.
Lieutenant Research, are you familiar with the works of Dr. Sung?
I've heard of him, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that I'm very familiar with, but I did hear a rumor that there was an android created by Dr. Sung a while back with a positronic brain, and he was able to evolve to be quite like a human. Perhaps we could look more into this and try to integrate your system.
I hadn't thought of making a physical AI, an android or something like that. I was looking at a holographic system, but yeah, it's certainly an approach that we can take a look at.
Yeah, we could look at the schematics and try to find whatever we can to improve our system here.
Oh, so actually start with the basics of the neural network from this Sung android, and essentially try and model that holographically and work from there.
Yeah, I think that'll be a great approach.
Yeah, certainly another approach we can start taking a look at.
Okay, so it sounds like you guys are discussing maybe a couple of different approaches, one of which is kind of machine learning, where you kind of start with an algorithm and feed it a bunch of data, and it sort of adapts and writes its own set of rules. Another approach that you guys are taking would be to start with the positronic brain designed by Dr. Sung and somehow adapting that for your own purposes as this artificial intelligence. I would say that it sounds to you like one of those, at least one of those approaches is viable here. But I'm not going to tell you if one or both or which one is the way to go. I also want to set the stage a little bit. You guys are in a science lab on Starbase 23. You guys are just above the space dock area. And in fact, there's a rather large window on one side of the room that overlooks the main bays inside the actual space dock of Starbase 23. And you guys actually have a rather nice view of the USS Hyperion, this Galaxy-Class, this big ship-of-the-line starship that is mostly powered down. There isn't a whole lot of lights flickering on the hull, not a lot of activity. There are a couple of split places where the ship is connected to airlocks leading into the station. Most of you would know that standard procedure in these sorts of situations, most of the crew of the USS Hyperion has probably disembarked the starship and is somewhere aboard the Starbase, but there's still probably a skeleton crew of engineers and command people aboard the Hyperion carrying out the warp core overhaul. Does anyone have any particular thoughts or feelings as they look out the window and see this Galaxy-class starship?
I've been briefed about why it's docked and all that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. As one of the main security officers on the station, you'd have a pretty good idea of all the major Starfleet traffic that goes in and out of the station.
Okay. Yeah, it's just a Galaxy cruiser, which is basically what the flagship of the Federation was, because it got destroyed at this timeline, point in time.
Yeah, so this is 2371. This is the year that the Enterprise D is destroyed on Viridian 3. I'm not sure if it's happened yet. It certainly will happen soon if it hasn't. You guys want to? Yeah, sure. We'll say that the events of Star Trek Generations have just occurred. The rest of Starfleet has just heard that the Enterprise D has crash landed on a planet and is basically too far gone to be raised and restored. And so, yeah, there's one less Galaxy-class starship in the fleet, and you're looking at one of the remaining ships of that class. docked in your starbase.
The
Yep.
doc looks out the window and sees it and says, Hyperion, Hyperion. Wait, I remember. That's the ship that Jack Thompson is on. God darn it! Oh, he stomps on the deck and curses himself.
Sorry, who?
Well, it's an embarrassing story, actually, Lieutenant Research. Back about 15 years ago, when I was an intern, there was this one cadet that I had to help. His name was Jack Thompson. He lost an eye in an accident, and at the time, I wasn't entirely competent with artificial prosthetics. There was I had to replace an eye for him, but I messed up. He spent about 3 days without an eye until my instructor, my attending physician, came over and operated on him. So he's been blaming me for being stuck with that nickname of his, One Eye. They called him Jack One Eye Thompson, and ever since that incident, I have been trying to avoid him. I heard that the last assignment that he's been given, he's actually assigned to Hyperion.
And at that moment, the door chime to your science lab sounds.
Okay, I'll open the door.
And striding through the doors as they swish open is a Starfleet officer. It looks like, if you look closely at him, he's got one blue eye and one eye that looks almost unnaturally gray. And he says, hey, Doc Stanislav, remember me? It's One Eye.
Oh, hey, how are you, Jack? I see that your eyes look as beautiful as ever.
They see a lot better than yours, I guarantee you that.
Yeah, I bet. So how you been doing?
Oh, I've been doing great. I was assigned to the Hyperion a couple of years ago, and it's been a great duty post. Out here patrolling the neutral zone, right where the action is. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Right. You don't want to lose another eye, right? So definitely be careful.
And right on his heels is another lieutenant, this one an engineer, and he is a Vulcan. And he comes in with a absolutely stoic expression on his face, as you expect a Vulcan to look. And he looks directly at Lieutenant Research, looks him up and down, and says, hello, Lieutenant Research.
Oh. Storak, what are you doing here?
I am simply aboard Starbase 23 for a short time while the Hyperion undergoes warp core overhaul. I wanted to see if I could possibly offer you some assistance, as you so often needed it at the Academy.
Thank you very much for the offer, Storak, but no, I think we have everything well under control here. I suggest you use your free time for recreation.
He sort of looks around the science lab, and if you didn't know any better, you'd swear he scoffed, and he says, are you certain you couldn't use my assistance? It doesn't look as if everything is under control here.
Oh, rest assured, if I thought for even a fraction of a second that I needed your assistance, I would let you know.
And Paul, if you could bring everyone up to speed on Lieutenant Research's history with this Storak.
Yeah, unfortunately, we were at the Academy together. Am I doing this in character or out?
It doesn't matter.
Because I'm not going to mention this in front of him. We'll assume it's sort of retcons, but yes. Unfortunately, we were at the Academy together. Now, I mean, as you guys know, I can be just a teensy bit, just a little bit anal when it comes to getting things right, engineering-wise. Yeah, Storak actually used to call me sloppy. He just Oh, he drove me insane at the academy.
You can't be serious. You? I mean, out of all the people that I know on this base, you're the most anal person. I mean, no offense, of course, but I just can't believe that.
I take a lot of pride in doing my work well. Storak does not take any pride in me doing my work well.
Boy, what are the chances that two people that, I don't like and you don't like are serving together and they happen to walk through that door at the same time? This can't be a coincidence.
I would say somebody somewhere's got it in for us.
Oh, boy. I need a drink.
Yeah, I think I'll join you.
As you guys are having this discussion amongst yourselves,
Right, and yeah, right in front of these two people too.
yes, Storak moves further into the science lab, and he's actually looking over the work that you guys have up on your monitors, and he says, it appears you're considering recreating a Zoom-type positronic brain. I am absolutely certain you do not possess the expertise to accomplish such a task.
And yet somehow I have a feeling we will succeed.
Well, I certainly wish you all the best, Lieutenant Chassearch. I will be going back aboard the Hyperion to work on the overhaul of the warp engines. Live long and prosper.
I wish I could say the same.
And he kind of storms out of the room, and you guys feel the temperature definitely dropped a couple of degrees when he, as he offered his goodbye. But Lieutenant Thompson
just a
sticks
little
around.
bit of the old Vulcan-Andorian rivalry is kind of creeping in there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Those things die hard. And Lieutenant Thompson is still in the room, and he kind of throws his hand around Dr. Stanislav. How do you respond to that, Doc?
He freezes and slowly turns his head to meet the gaze of Jack Thompson and says, "Is everything all right, Jack? You're not going to punch me on the face again, are you?"
Don't say anything stupid, and I won't.
All right. Well, by the way, how long will you be staying here on the Starbase?
Well, the refit is supposed to take about a week, and then I think we'll be back out along the neutral zone. But because the Hyperion has been stationed to this sector permanently, I should be coming in and out of the station on a regular basis. So we'll have plenty of time to reacquaint ourselves.
Yeah, I would love to do that, Jack. Well, it's good to see you, my friend, and it's good to see that you could see as well as before.
Even better.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say.
No thanks to you.
Yeah. Well, I'm just gonna stay back here and have a little chat with Lieutenant Chassearch. You have a wonderful time here on our Starbase, Jack.
I'm sure I'll be looking you up soon, Dr. Stanislav.
Yeah, I got that. You look at me up. Yeah, I totally get that.
And he leaves the science lab as well. The doors swish closed behind him.
Whew, boy, I thought he would never leave. Did I tell you about that incident when he punched me in the face?
Yes.
Yes. And that Vulcan, that's the one that you've talked about before? Is that right, Lieutenant Chassearch?
Oh, yeah. I might have mentioned him once or twice, just, when things got a little bit heated.
Right.
You know what, Doc? I think that drink is probably worth it.
Yes. But what are you going to do about that challenge? I mean, he said that we won't be able to recreate that positronic brain. Well, I'm actually leaning towards your theory. I believe we should probably work on boundary parameters for your genetic algorithm.
Yep, that's what I'm thinking. If anything, I want Storak to believe that we are still working on a positronic brain.
Yeah, well, maybe we ought to look more into it and pick out some elements that we can integrate together into the genetic algorithm.
Works for me.
Good plan.
So what else would you guys like to do? Any ideas?
Well, I'm going to kick things off by Well, I'm not sure whether I'd be able to do it myself directly or whether I'd have to put in a request for it, but I want access to, I don't know how long Starbase 23 has been here, but let's say up to about 5 years worth of traffic data. And I'm going to start putting together a few algorithms to do an analysis on it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's you'd have no security concerns with getting a hold of that data. It would be pretty voluminous. It's a ton of data to comb through.
Well, every big project's got to start somewhere.
So yeah, as you start combing through this data and you guys spend a couple of hours working on this project, suddenly a station-wide red alert sounds, and all three of you receive calls on your comm badges. Who would like to answer their call?
Chief of Security. What's happening?
Yeah, this is Ops. We're reading a massive buildup of warp energy coming from the Hyperion, but no one on board is answering our hail. We need someone to get over there and find out what's going on immediately.
Okay, how much time do we have left before the warp core ruptures?
Well, we're getting all kinds of radiation from the ship, so our sensor scans are not being able to pick up anything very precise, but we're picking up just a really irregular buildup of energy from the warp core. It might not even be dangerous, except we can't get anyone to answer our hails.
Okay, I'm going to grab an engineering toolkit and head straight for the transporter room and see if I can beam over there.
Okay, let's get going. I'm going to need to get every other ship to basically give this a wide berth. So we need to get that going. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Gonna do?
The doctor gets an additional medical personnel, and hearing that there had been no response coming from that area, assumes the worst and heads over to that area as well.
Cool. So you guys give the order to start clearing the space dock. So any of the shuttles and worker bees and non-essential craft, the space doors start to slowly whir open, and any of the non-essential ships start to get out of the space dock area and give as much space to the Hyperion as possible. You guys make your way to a transporter room. Because there's been this buildup of radiation, it's going to be a difficulty 2 test for someone to beam you over to the Hyperion rather than a difficulty 1. Does that sound good to you guys?
Sounds reasonable.
Yep.
Okay. So would one of you care to make a roll for the transporter operator, and then one of you can roll for the station as well.
Okay, I'll roll for the station.
And that's just one die, just 1d20 rolling for assistance from the station.
Okay, well, the station got a 1.
Okay, well, there are your
Pulling its weight today.
the 2 successes that you need. Someone just roll for like a random, roll 2 d20s for a random transporter operator. We'll say this guy's pretty competent, so you'll need an 11 for a success. Each 11 or less is a success.
Shall I roll for that?
I
Sure,
rolled.
I've got it.
Yeah, I got it. I got 4 and 7.
Okay, so you guys get 4 successes when you needed 2, so you generate 2 points of momentum. And I don't have my... Let me grab my momentum markers here. And as a reminder, as per the rules, I start out with 6 points of threat, 2 for each player character in the game. Okay, so you guys beam over to the Hyperion with 2 points of momentum at your disposal. As the transporter effect shimmers away around you, you realize you are on a transporter pad aboard the Hyperion. There is no one behind the transporter console in front of you. In fact, everything is eerily quiet. You see nothing moving. You see no one at all.
Great. Well then, I think we need to rush with move with purpose to the engineering deck, and we got to get this situation stabilized right quick.
Yep. Let's head for the engineering.
Yeah, so the three of you set out towards engineering, and as you get out into the corridor, you notice the same thing. There's absolutely no one here. It appears to be an abandoned ship.
This is most strange. I mean, I thought that we would find some people that are knocked out, but to find no one at all, this is very unusual.
I'm going to stop briefly at a computer panel and ask the computer where the crew are.
Yes, you get the familiar voice, the familiar female voice of the computer that says, all hands left the ship approximately 25 minutes ago.
Was that around the time we had the alert? Or was that well before?
Just briefly before, right before the alert. Right before the ops noticed this buildup of energy from the warp core.
I'll ask the computer if an abandoned ship order was given.
No such order was given.
Computer, what's the point of exit?
Unknown.
Was there a teleporter activation?
Unknown.
Okay, well, let's solve the immediate problem first. Let's see if we can figure out what's going on down in engineering, because if there's going to be a problem with the ship, if we don't fix it first, we're going to have a problem there.
Yes, let's go.
Yep, we'll carry on down for engineering.
Yeah, so when you get there, it's the same thing. There's no one there, but it does appear that the warp core is throbbing at a very rapid pace. And it does look like something is definitely malfunctioning there.
I'll go to a console and check on the state of the warp core.
Can you just turn it off right away?
Well, I don't want to start flipping switches until I've figured out what might be wrong with it.
Yeah, why don't you give me a difficulty 2, reason plus, we'll say, yeah, reason plus engineering.
Okay, so reason engineering is a 15, so let's give that a shot. And that was a 20 and a 19. Holy crap.
Oh, creating a complication. So you start trying to figure out what's going on here. You see that the warp core is generating some kind of powerful feedback energy loop, but you're unable to determine exactly why or what caused it. And in fact, there is sort of a kind of an explosion that happens very near you and throws you to the deck. And it will do, actually, you're able to avoid any damage, but it throws you to the deck. And as you look over at the source of this explosion, you see kind of a vortex of energy sort of ripple outward for a second. And as you peer towards this vortex that's rippling open, you see figures moving on the other side, but then whoosh, the vortex closes and disappears.
What the heck was that, Lieutenant Research?
I
you
have
all right?
no idea.
Well, let me check your status here. Do you feel hurt? Are you okay?
Just a little bit shaken. I need to get back to the warp core.
All right. Well,
Whatever's happening, if it's escalating, yeah, we're going to have a big problem.
all right. Let's get in there.
Okay, so trying to figure out what was going wrong wasn't working, so let's try flipping switches.
Yeah, you think you can attempt an emergency shutdown of the warp core, and that's going to be a difficulty 3 control plus engineering task. And someone can assist if they like. There's enough room for 2 people at the console. And also the Hyperion can assist as well, because there doesn't appear to be anything necessarily wrong with the ship or its computer, just the warp core.
Okay, I'll roll for the Hyperion.
Okay.
Okay, so the Hyperion, this will be
4.
engines plus engineering is a 12. So you got a 4?
Yep.
Okay, so the ship gives you 1 success. Paul, you can roll.
Cool.
And if the doctor wants to assist, you can.
I do have warp core mechanics, so
that would certainly apply. Yep.
See how we do that.
And I failed.
That's a 10 and an 11, so that's just 2 successes.
Okay, so you got the 3 successes you needed to shut down the warp core, and it starts to slowly, the pulsing of the warp core starts to slow and recede to a normal, healthy engine rate. It seems that the immediate crisis has been averted. The warp core is not about to blow up, but you're still left with the mystery of what the hell happened to the engineering crew and the people that were on board the ship conducting the refit.
I'm going to spend a few minutes just making sure the warp core is shutting down correctly and that there's no other issues.
Yep. As you do that, as you monitor the situation, you feel that shutting down the warp core, cooling it off, has had the desired effect, that you guys are, at least for now, out of immediate danger.
Okay, well, once everything looks like it's been stabilized, I'll contact the Starbase control operations and just let them know that the warp core has been shut down and everything seems okay now. Then I'm going to turn my attention to the engineering logs and see if I can figure out what happened.
All right. Anybody else doing anything?
This is going to be, I'm going to be assisting him, mostly because we were briefed that this was going to be having a skeleton crew right now, and the computers don't know how they all left the ship.
I have a hunch that this is a sabotage. You saw that too, right? You saw those shimmering and strange creatures on the other side.
Yes. So we need to find out, ask the computer where they were last, and then investigate the area. If they left, they would be leaving in a hurry or not?
So when you guys report back to ops, what you guys that you guys have shut down the warp core, they respond that their sensors, now that the radiation from the warp core is starting to dissipate, their sensors show that you guys are the only people aboard the Hyperion. There should be, according to the duty roster, there should be somewhere around 50 crew members overseeing the repairs and refit of the Hyperion. And there's no data in the logs for transporting out. It looks like all the shuttles and escape pods for the Hyperion are all accounted for. The ops is baffled as you guys are.
Yes. Can we get a location from the ship computer about their last known locations and check them out?
Yeah, so as you guys go through the logs, that won't require any kind of test because you guys are Starfleet officers and you know how to search for this stuff. It looks like on a recent stop before coming to Starbase 23, the Hyperion recently investigated Collapsar 49 in the Ardaline sector. Radiation from the pulsar may have created an engine imbalance that led to the unstable buildup of this power that you guys just witnessed.
Ooh, I'm wondering how Storak and his fellow engineers missed that.
Wasn't their pal supposed to be working on the engines?
Yeah, Storak said before he left the science lab that you guys were in, he mentioned specifically that he was going back to the Hyperion to work on the refit.
Commander, can you just check the logs and see if Storak was actually on board when this happened?
Sure. I'll check to see if both of your friends are here. We're here.
Yeah. Lieutenant Commander Holm, why don't you give me a difficulty 2 reason plus con task as you look over the computer logs of the Hyperion, specifically looking for the duty roster and
sure.
who was aboard and what was happening in the moments leading up to this dangerous buildup of power.
Okay, I'm going to spend a momentum, so let's go.
I'd be interested to know particularly who was in engineering.
8, 2, and 12. So I got 2 successes.
Okay, you got the 2 successes that you needed. As you go through the ship's logs, it looks as if there were about a half a dozen people in engineering right before this power buildup. One of which was indeed Storak. Another was another engineering officer named Aladia Tian, Trill officer, and 4 junior engineering officers and technicians. There were something like 50 people aboard the ship in various locations. This is obviously a really big ship. You also, as you look at the logs, you notice that not only just before this big feedback loop of power in the warp core, it looks like a warp bubble momentarily expanded outward from the ship's warp engines and then burst. It was a highly unstable warp bubble that looks as if it couldn't have been intentional. No starship would create a bubble with these sort of features and dimensions that just blinked out in an instant.
Can I find anything in the engineering logs that would indicate how it was created?
Yeah, as you're going over the ship's computers and logs and looking really closely at the warp core, knowing that this warp bubble was created, you think that the sort of unusual radiation that the ship encountered at this pulsar, Collapsar 49 in the Ardaline sector, because the sort of pulsing, intermittent nature of the radiation, that might have caused a strange imbalance in the warp core, that when they shut it down, it actually sort of had this sort of inverse effect, sending out this really unstable warp bubble.
So from what I can tell, it doesn't seem intentional.
No, you think that it would almost, this warp bubble was so irregular, so unstable, there would be, you'd have to be like a crazy person to intentionally create something like this.
Well, Storak was actually in engineering at the time. Okay. So now we have a problem. The disappearance of the 50 crew seems to be linked to this warp bubble. Are we going to have to recreate this?
Odds are yes, but we should do it in a controlled environment, find out how we can do this without compromising the Starbase itself.
Okay. I'm just trying to think, are we going to have to research this warp bubble at all to try and figure out exactly what it did? I don't know, this kind of rings a bell. This sounds familiar.
Do you recall the time when 2 of you were missing and we had to search through the phase space to bring you back?
You think this warp bubble might have caused the same problem?
I don't know, but I mean, with the amount of radiation, it might have caused a similar effect. Who knows?
Okay. Well, let's see what I can do in a controlled environment then. So I'll transfer all the engineering data that I've got available over to Starbase 23, and I think I'm going to try running a simulation in one of the Starbase 23 holodecks using that data. See if I can recreate the incident holographically and get the computer to analyze what's happening. It may not tell me much, but at least it's better than trying to attempt to do the same thing again on the Hyperion while it's in Starbase.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is going to be cool. Anyone else want to do anything?
I think Lieutenant Researcher's idea is sound.
Yeah.
Okay. So the 3 of you go over to one of the holodecks on Starbase 23, and it's, you know, this darkened room with sort of a yellowish grid on the black walls, and you load up the data from the Hyperion, and all of a sudden, whoosh, you are standing in the same room inside main engineering of the Hyperion. Of course, it's a holographic recreation, and inside the room, there, according to the sensor logs, you've got the 6 engineering crewmen, one of which is Storak, that you'd recognize, and they're just standing totally still like mannequins at various engineering stations. The computer is awaiting your command to begin the simulation.
Okay, I'll tell the computer to start just by replaying the data as a simulation without any sort of changes or analysis. So let's see if we can figure out, just by looking at it, what happened.
Yeah, so they're going over the sequence that you would recognize as sort of being the pre-shutdown sequence. They're running checks to make sure that the warp core is ready to be powered down so that they can conduct some kind of overhaul, which would all be according to procedure. All of a sudden, Storak calls out in his stoic Vulcan fashion that he's reading some kind of feedback inside the warp core, and they can't shut it down. And a few moments later, it looks like there's this bright flash of light emanating directly from the warp core, and then all of a sudden, everyone, in the blink of an eye, all 6 people in the engineering section and presumably throughout the ship have disappeared. And then the bright light sort of ripples backwards into the same sort of vortex that you saw before it disappears, and everything is still and silent again.
Okay. I'll ask the computer to take that portion of the engineering log data and run it against the engineering database to see if there's anything similar being seen before.
Yes, actually, you guys were sort of recalling the Enterprise D. There was a similar incident where a warp bubble actually pulled in Dr. Crusher, the chief medical officer aboard the Enterprise D, and pulled her into sort of a pocket alternate dimension.
I knew it sounded familiar. Okay, so this is what we think happened again, or at least what the computer thinks happened. Presumably the data that we got seems to match that incident on board the Enterprise.
Well, then let's go and read the reports on that. That might be able to help us triangulate everything.
Yep.
Yeah, you bet. Going over those mission briefings, you realize that the Enterprise D crew rather ingeniously found a way to reopen this vortex to pull Dr. Crusher back out. They had the help of a strange alien called a Traveler. You guys don't know anyone like that that's going to help you sort of warp and shift the laws of physics. But you also know that while Dr. Crusher was in this pocket reality, it was unstable and gradually shrinking. So you feel that if the crewmen of the Hyperion are still alive, if they've been sucked into one of these pocket dimensions, they're only going to be there for a limited amount of time. The clock's ticking for you guys to find a way to get them out.
So we've got to figure out a way to recreate this warp bubble, but without the help of an advanced space and time traveling alien.
Well, speaking of space and time travel, I mean, this is entirely hypothetical, and I'm terrible at engineering, so I'm just talking about it in terms of basic sciences. You know, we might be able to tune our teleporter and try to find out if we could plug in the same parameters of the energy signature and try to teleport them back. Would that work? I mean, I'm not certain how we would work with the, you know, in terms of engineering aspect, but
I don't know.
We would need to be able to locate them first.
If they've been shunted into some sort of pocket dimension, we've got to get hold of that dimension first. We've got to find some way to access that dimension.
We have the energy readings leading up to the disappearance, so perhaps we could just reverse them.
Taking a look at the energy readings that we've got, do I think that we could potentially recreate those same energies using a transporter?
Yeah, there might be some risk involved, but you think you could do it?
I think given that Storak is on the other side of this dimensional rift, that's a risk I'm willing to take.
Just to prove you're better.
Think about how many years you'll be able to talk about this.
At the moment, I'm thinking about saving 49 crewmen's lives.
And odds are he's also doing the same thing, so it's a race against time to see who's better.
Well, let's hope we all come to the same solution. Okay.
Well, I see a determination in your eyes, Lieutenant Research.
Well, I think we're going to have to set up camp on the Hyperion. And I'll start work to see what modifications need to be done to the transporter to try to recreate the same sort of energy patterns that we had with the warp bubble.
And we're going to assign us engineering teams to help, so we'll get that going.
Yep.
Cool. So yeah, you get to work with your engineering team, reprogramming the transporter to be able to beam you into the sort of interphasic pocket universe that you guys think you have located. Give me, how about a difficulty 3, reason plus, actually this will be control plus engineering because of the kind of fine, minute details that you're going to have to get exactly right to do it. The Starbase can assist, and so can one of you if you like. Or we can have kind of a nameless supporting cast engineer assist.
Yeah, we can have someone assist me. The other thing, where are we? I've got to check back through my notes.
Starbase got a 16.
16 is not going to be enough to help.
Okay. So I'm going to... We've still got 1 momentum left, haven't we?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going to use that momentum to buy an extra dice.
Okay.
Because I do have the cautious talent. So at least I get to re-roll a dice if I've bought an extra one.
Okay. And you've also you guys each have a point of determination as well, if you would like to use that to give yourself at least 1 automatic critical success.
Yep. So yeah, I'll burn the momentum for an extra dice.
Okay.
And what were we aiming for again? It was engineering, control and engineering.
Yep, control plus engineering. And if someone else wants to assist at the console of the transporter, someone else can do that as well.
The doctor steps up. He rolls up his sleeves and says, "I have to save lives, my friends."
Yeah, right on.
Yeah, unless we do this, they're going to die, which means that I am absolutely determined to make this work. Could I spend my determination on this?
Yeah, you bet.
Great.
So you automatically roll a crit success and get 2 successes. And Lieutenant Research, how did you do?
I've got a 4, a 5, and a 17. And I'm actually, because I can, I'm going to re-roll the 17.
17.
I'm going to keep the 4 and the 5. And roll a 6 instead. So that's 3 successes from here.
Okay, so you got a total of 5. You needed 3. So you guys get 2 momentum back. And you guys feel certain that you have been able to figure out a way to beam into this interphasic pocket that is sort of occupying the same space as the Hyperion, but in a different phase. But you guys think that you've figured out a way to beam into it safely.
Yeah, but we haven't figured out a way to beam out of it safely.
No. It doesn't look like you are, because your targets are occupying this different phase. It doesn't look like you're just going to be able to beam a bunch of people out of this pocket universe. It seems more likely that you're going to have to go in, locate the people, and bring them out.
Okay. I'll take the engineering data that we've got, all the data that we've got from modifying the transporters, load that up onto a tricorder. I'll grab myself a set of pattern enhancers. I'm sure we've got some of those lying around somewhere. Okay, I'm going in. Anyone coming? Doc, there might be people hurt on the other side.
Oh, you had to say that, didn't you? I was going to just sit out here and wait for the rest of you to bring out the injured.
Sorry, but I knew you'd regret it if I didn't ask.
All right, all right. Well, I have some experience with pulling people out of different phase space. So why not? Let's go in.
Okay,
Commander?
let's get going.
Okay.
Awesome.
We'll
So you
get our
guys
best
managed-
transporter technician to send us over then.
Yeah. So you guys get another transporter tech in there. He's able to bridge the transporter of the Starbase to the transporters of this out-of-phase Hyperion. And the transporter effect washes over you and fades away again, and you guys find yourselves standing on the same transporter platform that you first beamed over to the Hyperion on. But this time there's someone there. There's someone who seems like they would have been standing behind the transporter controls, but the crewman wearing a Starfleet uniform is down on the ground, seemingly writhing in pain on the deck.
Oh no, what's going on? He runs over there with his tricorder and scans the man.
Yeah, that's going to be a difficulty 1, reason plus medicine task. Please, doctor.
That's 15 is the score that I needed to beat. I got 12, so he makes it.
Okay, cool. So it looks as if this person is having, hold on just a second. I want to make sure I get these words right. It appears that this person is suffering some kind of psychosis. If you'd like to spend a point of momentum to increase the quality of your scan, you can. Otherwise, that's going to have to be your diagnosis with the 1 success that you have.
Yeah, he's going to spend it. And
cool.
Yeah.
So that brings you from 2 points of momentum down to 1, and you conduct a more in-depth scan with your tricorder, and you think that this crew person is suffering some kind of psychological trauma because of prolonged exposure to interphase. This person is suffering a psychosis because they've sort of been out of their own reality for too long.
How long has he been here? We just arrived, but and it's been few minutes in our world. He turns to the rest of the crew and says, well, it seems like he's having this psychosis due to prolonged exposure to this inner space. I'll see what I can do to stabilize him, but we ought to locate the rest of the crew as quickly as possible and get out of here.
So how long has it been roughly since the incident with the warp core?
Probably a couple of hours at this point.
Okay, so that's pretty much about as much time as we've got before we start going the same way.
Yeah, different people might be able to resist the effects for longer, but yeah, that's a pretty good assumption that this will also start to affect you eventually.
Okay, we need to move then. So I guess let's head down for the engineering, or what counts as engineering on this ship.
Yeah. What do you do with the crewman whom you just met in the transport room?
Can we get him back?
He's going to sedate him to try to stop him from having seizures or going nuts or hurting himself.
Okay. Yeah, you're able to do that without making a test. You give him a hypospray, and the crewman relaxes and sort of collapses back onto the deck, unconscious, but at least out of pain for the moment. So where are you guys off to?
We'll head down for what passes for engineering, but we'll probably need to bring this guy with us and make sure that all the other crew members on board come to engineering as well. We're probably going to need everybody in one place when we start beaming people out.
Okay, so just to be clear, your plan is to get everyone in one location, set up the pattern enhancers, and then beam them back to start the Starbase.
Basically, yeah. I'm going to head down for engineering, see, I guess if I can get hold of Storak, he's probably the person most likely to be able to help. And I'll start working with him on how we can beam everybody back. But
I think the pattern is probably the strongest here in the transporter room. Perhaps we should bring the rest of the crew to the transporter room if possible.
I'm thinking engineering was the center of the warp bubble. So that's probably going to be the last place that will still be around if the warp bubble is collapsing. And I've got the pattern enhancers here, so it shouldn't matter where we beam people from. But the problem is there are only 6 people in engineering, which means somewhere around the rest of the ship there's another 44 people that we've got to try and gather together.
Ooh, this man's pretty heavy. And he slings the unconscious man over his back.
Okay, so you guys start to tramp towards engineering. Dr. Stanislav, you're carrying this unconscious crewman with you. As you are making your way along the fairly familiar route, it's basically the same route you guys took earlier aboard the real Hyperion, or the Hyperion as it exists in normal space-time. I'm going to spend a couple points of threat to create a complication as part of the bulkhead in the corridor that you're traveling suddenly disappears, and there's an explosive decompression in the corridor. So I would like each of you to give me some kind of task. What do you do in response to this sudden crisis, as literally part of the bulkhead along the corridor disappears and is exposed to what looks to be the exterior outside of the Hyperion? It doesn't look like normal space. It looks like this sort of crackling, rippling energy.
Is it vacuum?
Yes, it definitely is a vacuum, as all of the atmosphere inside the corridor suddenly starts rushing out, and you feel this almost uncontrollable urge to exhale all of the air in your lungs.
Well done. I am going to go, and we are going to see if there's any emergency thing. Seal the bulkhead right away. So, let me see.
The doctor desperately tries to cling to any handrail or anything that he could grab onto to prevent himself from being sucked out.
Yeah, Doc, go ahead and give me difficulty 2. This will be, I'll let you decide between control or fitness and security.
Definitely control.
As you kind of grab onto something along the corridor and try to brace yourself against this this irresistible force that starts pulling you outward into whatever is outside of the Hyperion.
Difficulty 2, right?
Yep.
Do we have any momentum?
You've got 1 point of momentum.
I'll pay a threat.
Okay, so that will give me 5, a total of 5 threat. You get an extra die, 3d20, and you need 2 successes.
6 and 4, so I don't even have to roll the third one.
Okay, you can if you want. You could generate momentum or create an advantage or something like that.
Yeah, I'll create momentum.
If you roll a success.
Oh,
So
all right.
roll your third d20 and tell me.
The third one's 6, so yep.
Okay, so you, Dr. Stanislav, not only are you able to keep yourself from being pulled out into the vacuum, you're also able, for the moment, to keep the unconscious crewman that you have over your shoulder from flying out the bulkhead as well. What do Lieutenant Holm and Lieutenant Chasert do?
I'm going to look for an emergency switch to seal it, as the other 3 are going to try to get to the other side.
Okay. So I would like you to give me either, once again, difficulty 2, either control or fitness plus security, just as you try to keep yourself from being thrown out of this hole that suddenly appeared in the...
Okay, let's see. I'm going to use fitness and security. Okay, 2 and a 9, so 2 successes.
Okay. So you're able to brace yourself to the wall of the corridor, and you want to activate some kind of backup, some kind of force field to shut this hole, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a force field, or it could just be an actual door that comes down.
Yeah, an emergency.
When Jordy was doing that action roll, I think in Generations.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. So you're going to attempt to do that. Lieutenant Chasert, I would like you to give me the same difficulty 2, either control or fitness plus security, just to see if you're able to keep yourself from being thrown across the the corridor.
Okay, so that's a 3 and a 5, so that's 2 successes.
Okay, cool. And is there anything else you would like to try now that you've sort of gotten yourself out of danger for the moment?
I was going to try what the commander tried, but thinking about it now, I've got my hands full. I've got the tricorder, I've got the pattern enhancers. I'm barely able to hold on.
Oh, yeah. Good call. Good call. Okay. So, Lieutenant Holm, why don't you give me difficulty 2? This will be control plus con, as you're in this crisis situation, just trying to tap the right buttons to lower the emergency bulkhead to shut off this sudden evacuation of the atmosphere.
Okay, I'm gonna.
And you've got 2 points of momentum if you'd like.
Oh, I'll spend momentum. Get a third dice. Let's go. Gotta get under a 10, and I got 18, 11, 2 failures, and the last one is a 1. So 2 successes.
Okay, so you got your 2 successes that you needed, and you're able to just barely at the last moment hit the right sequence of buttons, and an emergency bulkhead slides into place, and all of a sudden the force that was trying to pull you out into the vacuum ceases completely, and you guys are back in the corridor, out of danger for the moment. So well done.
Well, the good news is we're out of danger. The bad news is the way to engineering is on the other side of that door.
Yes, absolutely. You'll have to find another way around.
Well then, it's a Galaxy class. There's multiple ways to get to engineering, so let's get going.
Okay. Well, I'm hoping we can find some Jeffries tubes and maybe make our way down there.
I think it's going to be a bit of a problem with our guest.
Ah, good point. Okay. I'll see if the computer panel's still operating and see if we can get an alternate route to engineering.
Yep. It looks like you can take the long way around. That will burn some time. Or you could attempt to go directly through the Jeffries tubes, but someone will have to make some probably some fitness tasks to carry your unconscious crewman.
I don't think I can haul this fella all the way across by walking. Commander,
I'll take him.
Thank you. I knew that having a burly person like yourself would do us great.
Okay. Well then, let's get going. Time is of the essence, and we just saw how it's also collapsing.
I'm not a big fan of it, but is it worth splitting up? I can take the quicker, faster route to engineering, get there sooner. You guys follow in the slower route.
If anything, the doctor should go with you because there might be more people where you're heading. I'll take the longer route, and if there's more people, I can carry them too. So,
well, at some point, we're going to have to carry out some kind of a search of the ship, aren't we, to try and find the people that are still left on board.
Yes. But is there any way we can just bring them to a location? Like if we're able to detect them on the ship and then just transport them there, and then go and make that portal outside.
We can try. I guess the transporters here seem to work as well as they do on the real Hyperion. So I don't know. Maybe while I head down for engineering, maybe one of you guys needs to get to a transporter room and see if you can find other people and transport them to engineering.
Couldn't you also be able to work the transporter in engineering?
Probably, yeah.
Since we have the pattern enhancer, if you were to take that fella back to the transporter room, Commander, we might be able to transport locally within Hyperion from the engineering room where we're assuming everybody would be, and then from there transport back to our own Hyperion.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can head straight for engineering and get the pattern enhancers set up in there, and then you guys could use them to beam other people from around the ship to engineering.
Okay. Yeah, let's get that going.
Okay, summarize that plan for me.
I'm going to take the pattern enhancers and head by the quickest route I can figure out, straight to engineering. And these guys. I don't know.
We're going to be searching for people, tagging them, all of that, I think.
The doctor's actually going to stick with Lieutenant Research and go down to engineering.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Thelev and Doc Stanislav go to engineering. Lieutenant Commander Holm, you are going to you're going to have the unconscious dude, and you're going to start looking for other survivors?
Yes, I'm going to go to the most safest place we know, which is the transporter room, deposit him, and then more people I find I'll bring over to there. So, yeah.
Okay, and are you using the transporter, or are you just kind of stashing that dude there?
Actually, can we use the transporter to get him out?
Well, that was my idea. I was hoping that we would use the transporter room to transport people out of this Hyperion into the Hyperion of our reality.
Well, I'm going to get the pattern enhancers set up in engineering, and then you can use those pattern enhancers to send people to engineering when you find them. So as long as you can get them to a transporter room on what's left of the ship, you should be able to get them to engineering. And in the meantime, I can work with whoever is left in engineering, see if I can figure out a way to transport us back over to the real Hyperion.
Okay, so that sounds like it. So I'll be doing that. Does the computer on this Hyperion work?
Yep, for the moment.
Okay, let's say deposit this guy. I'm going to be asking for life signs aboard the vessel and quickest ways to get there.
Okay.
So, it's going to be lots of running.
Yeah, so as Thelev and Thelev and Dr. Stanislav are both going to engineering?
Yes.
Okay, so as you guys set off for engineering, and you're going through the Jeffries tubes, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Cool.
Quickest route possible.
Yep, that is the quickest route possible. So we'll stick with Lieutenant Commander Holm for the moment. You're looking at the computer, looking for life signs, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I want all three of you to give me a difficulty 3 presence plus command task.
Cool. I'm still in momentum, so I'm rolling 3.
How are we looking for momentum at the moment?
That would be your last momentum if Lieutenant Commander Holmes spends it.
Okay. 6, 8, 7. So yeah.
Okay, you make it.
Yep.
Each of you need to make the test.
I'll buy 2 threat.
Okay.
For an extra die.
Yeah, two extra die.
Wouldn't that be 3?
Yeah. So the first one will cost you 1 threat. The second die will cost you 2 threat, and it sort of grows. The more dice you buy, the more it costs.
Okay. I rolled 1 and 3 and 4 and one of them 15. So 3 successes, and
okay.
I believe I generated momentum.
You needed 3 successes. It's a difficulty 3 test, so you made it.
I'm probably going to have to burn that same momentum that he's just generated.
Okay.
Unless we're doing this simultaneously and you want me to buy threat.
Nope, that's fine.
Okay, I'll do that then. I'll burn the momentum for an extra die.
Okay, do it.
Was it presence plus command?
Yes, sir.
Oh dear. 7, 10, 19.
Doesn't sound like you made that.
It's going to be 2 successes.
Okay, you needed 3. The other 2 make it. Lieutenant Research does not. But you guys all start to realize that you're maybe feeling a little jittery. You're not thinking as clearly as you normally would, And so I'm spending 2 points of threat to create a complication that you guys are starting to suffer the effects of interphase. Right now, mechanically, that doesn't really have any impact on Lieutenant Commander Holm or Dr. Stanislav, but Lieutenant Chasurch, any task that you attempt from now on that requires a lot of mental acuity is going to be at a +1 to difficulty.
Oh boy.
But as Lieutenant Commander Holm starts looking at the internal sensors of the Hyperion, I would like you to give me a difficulty 2 con plus reason plus con, please, Lieutenant Commander Holm.
Partial success, only 1.
Okay, so you don't get a ton of information. It looks as if the internal sensors are being hampered by lots of the hull breach that you guys just saw. It looks like there are more and more happening across the ship. It looks like you surmise that the pocket reality you guys are in is shrinking right now. And it's going to continue to shrink until everything is gone, you think. So right now, it's really difficult for you to tell where life forms are concentrated on the Hyperion.
Yeah, so I'm going to need him to help me get this going. So, could the ship actually assist? Or is it basically overloaded right now?
It can. I should have thought of that. This will be computers plus... so this will be computers plus science. So it'll be a 12. One of you can roll a d20, and if you get a 12 or less, let me know.
Well then, who's rolling?
I'll do that. 11.
11. So for a moment, it seems like the computer sort of powers down, the panel in front of you sort of powers down, but then it kind of flashes back to life. And it looks like there are hull breaches all over the ship. It looks like life forms are sort of concentrated towards the bridge and towards engineering. And with that, we will cut to Lieutenant Chasurch and Dr. Stanislav as you guys make your way through the Jeffries tubes and into main engineering, where you find a half dozen harried officers that appear to be verging on panic. But we'll take just a quick break for about 5 minutes, if that's all right with you guys.
Oh.
All right, I will be right back. All right, I'm getting back to, I just wanted to look up a quick rule that I think might come into play here in a moment. Damn, I could have sworn I saw it. Oh, okay, cool. Okay. Miguel and Paul, are you guys back, locked and loaded?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, perfect. So just to reset the scene a little bit, I have 6 threat. You guys have 0 momentum. You guys have beamed aboard the USS Hyperion, which this version of it is locked in this sort of interphasic pocket universe where there are at least several survivors of some kind of warp bubble accident that are in need of rescue. As time goes on and you guys are exposed to interphase for longer periods of time, it's going to have an impact on your mental faculties. You might even experience psychosis after certain amounts of exposure. Lieutenant Chiserch and Dr. Stanislav have made their way to engineering, where there are about a half a dozen officers in kind of a growing state of panic. And Lieutenant Commander Holm, you are above decks looking for survivors wherever you can find them. It looks to you, looking at the computer, that there are hull breaches riddling this version of the Hyperion, and it looks like most of the survivors are concentrated near main engineering and the bridge. Although to you, when you guys beamed aboard, you knew that there were something like 50 crewmen aboard the Hyperion. As Lieutenant Commander Holm looks at the internal sensor data, it looks like there's significantly fewer, which leads you to believe that there are probably some members of the Hyperion crew, some of the engineering team, who have not survived the explosive decompression of various parts of the ship.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well then, I guess I'm gonna have to really hoof it to the bridge.
Yeah, so you start making your way towards the bridge, and we will cut to main engineering, where Lieutenant Chiserch and Dr. Stanislav have just made their way through the Jeffries tubes. And you find that there are a bunch of engineering crewmen led by Chief Engineer Storic, and also another main engineering officer named Eladia Tian, a female Trill. These people are in duress. Some of them appear to be suffering from, kind of migraines. They're cradling their heads, they don't look like they're in much working order. Storic he sees you, he recognizes you, but you can see by looking at him that he's maybe struggling to keep his composure. What do you guys do, Dr. Stanislav and Lieutenant Chiserch?
Lieutenant Chiserch, I think they're suffering from psychosis. I'm going to administer antipsychotic medication to some of them, but I don't have enough supplies to administer to all of them.
Start with Storak. I'm going to need him.
All right. He's going to go up there and try to administer antipsychotic medication, and also try to stimulate the activity in the frontal lobe.
Ooh.
Yeah, so
I'm
sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to go up to Storak with the doctor, and I'm going to talk to him. I'm going to do the sort of, Storak, are you with me? Do you recognize me? And I'll give him a quick smack around the cheek.
Yeah, as you do that, he snarls at you. He totally loses his composure, especially as Dr. Stanislav approaches with a hypospray. He says, no, I don't trust you. I don't know. I know you. And he looks directly at Lieutenant Chiserch. He says, I know you. There's no way that you're here to help me. And he is actually going to lunge at Lieutenant Chiserch and try to strike you. So I'm going to spend a point of threat to get an extra die. And so this will be a daring plus security task. Lieutenant Chiserch, this will be an opposed task between you and Storic as he lunges at you to make a physical strike. And it looks like he gets 2 successes.
Right. Daring plus security. Oh, not good. 1 success.
Okay, so he's going to do some damage to you. And I'm going actually, so you would probably, you're assumed to have whatever normal weapon you would have that you beamed aboard with. I'm going to spend 2 points of threat, 2 additional points of threat. As he lunges at you and strikes you, he knocks the equipment that you're carrying, the phaser, the tricorder, and the pattern enhancers, to the deck. They clatter to the deck. And he's going to do some attacks to you, or some damage.
I've got to say, I probably wouldn't even have thought to have brought a phaser along. So I'm going to say I'm unarmed.
Okay, that's cool. So your tricorder and your pattern enhancers are knocked to the floor.
Yep.
And he does 1. Okay, so he does 6 points of damage to you, and that would be enough to injure you, to knock you out, unless you you can either pay me threat to avoid the injury, or you can, I think, spend your determination to sort of stay in the fight despite the fact that he just clocked you. Or you can go to the deck injured. It's your choice.
Don't I have to tap a value if I want to spend determination?
I'm not sure if you have to in a combat situation to avoid injury. I think I've got it here.
No,
somewhere.
it's not. You can do that in combat, but it's only outside of combat that you have to have a value.
Okay, I'll do that then. I'll tap the determination. So I'll take the hit, but I'll kind of roll with it a little bit.
Yeah. So how you can feel free to narrate for me how he hits you and what sort of injury it causes.
Well, I'm guessing in his state he's going to just try and swing for me. It doesn't seem that he's going to be doing anything sophisticated like a nerve pinch.
No, absolutely.
So I'm just going to have to take the hit and try and roll with it as best I can. It's probably going to knock me to the ground, or at least knock me against the console.
Yeah, I like that. It snaps you back against the console, and you hit your head. How about that?
Yep.
And I'm just going to look up the rule for
as soon as I can sort of shake my head and pull myself together again, I'll just shout at him, "Storak, pull yourself together. You're an officer."
Okay. Actually, I'm not. Well, I'm pretty sure the rule is, so if you stay in the fight using determination, if you still lose that stress, so at the end of the scene, you will become injured unless you receive medical treatment. And you said you try to snap Storak out of this. Why don't you give me role play for me exactly what you say and how you do it?
Well, after he sort of knocks me to the console and I manage to sort of shake my head and get my wits back, which hopefully won't take more than a few seconds, I'll just shout at him, "Pull yourself together, Storak. You're an officer."
Give me a presence plus command task, and I will oppose it with Storix.
Oh, I was really hoping you weren't going to say that.
To see if you're able to sort of snap him out of his psychosis, at least for a moment.
On the other hand,
he got 1 success.
7 and a 3 is not bad. Was it presence in command?
Yes, sir.
Ooh, that's 3 successes.
Hey, well done. So you actually get 2 points of momentum. Well done.
I'm glad we got that because you were getting a bit power hungry with the threat.
Well, I had a lot to spend. Now I'm down to 3.
Spend it freely. He can't. It's going to be like my one GM where whenever he has something like that, he says to me, and the others is like, "Well, I always make a promise to spend all threat before the end of the session."
There we go.
I got to admit, it's a good change because in most of the previous games we seem to have had more momentum than threat.
Yeah.
It's actually good to feel threatened for a change.
Yeah,
It's
I
my
wanted
fault. I
to-
fed him like 2 threats today.
Yeah, so you for a moment at least, Storik's vision clears, and he says something along the lines of, I apologize. I appear to have lost my composure." And you see almost a look of shame across his face as this Vulcan realizes he's lost all of his emotional control, that this is probably a very vulnerable moment for him.
Probably a good time for the doctor to step in with his antipsychotics.
Yep, he's right there and says, "You're not going to punch me in the face, are you?"
Oh god, this is the point where you're going to be an asshole.
Storik sort of sinks down to his knees and kind of focuses inwardly and tries to restore his composure. Dr. Stanislav, are you trying to suppress the psychosis, or are you trying to just knock him out cold like you did the first crewman?
No, this time he's trying to suppress the psychosis. He's
Okay.
gonna stimulate the frontal lobe activities and so that his basic instincts would subside.
Cool. So that will be slightly more difficult. This will be a difficulty 2, reason plus medicine task.
Great. All right. And I 1 success, 3 and 17. He fails 1.
Okay. What do you think might be a good... Do you think he tries to hit you, Dr. Stanislav, or what do you think happens?
I think when he when he said that, you're not going to try to hit me, are you? It just goaded him enough so that he snaps back.
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely.
His emotion kicks in.
Stanislav, everything is fine.
So he's trying to meditate in his very Vulcan way to maintain his composure, but his eyes snap back open, and he strikes out at you.
Oh my god!
And so, Dr. Stanislav, I will need a daring plus security task. You have 2 points of momentum at your disposal.
Okay, I'm gonna spend 1 momentum.
Okay, so you get 3 dice, and I got 1 success.
3 successes.
Okay. So you are able to somehow reverse this attack. What do you do as he lunges toward you?
He just steps right back and then allows him to punch the air, and he pushes him towards the direction that he was moving. So he does a little bit of a miniature jiu-jitsu.
Okay, cool. So now I need you to roll me a number of d6s that is equal to 1 plus your security discipline. And tell me what you get.
D6s.
Yep, tell me each result. First tell me how many d6s you're going to roll, and then tell me each result.
1 plus... I'm going to roll 4 D6s. Okay. And I got 5, 6, and 4, and 3.
Okay, so the 3 and the 4. So you do 2 points of stress damage to Storik. Where is it? Okay.
And I think it has effect on both of them.
Yeah, so that knocks him to the deck. As you sort of step out of the way and do this jiu-jitsu move, using his own momentum against him, and he falls to the deck. And for a moment, his vision clears once again, and he seems confused. He doesn't know what's going on.
I'm going to grab him by the shoulders and just stare sort of straight into his face and tell him again to pull himself together. It's like, come on, man, you're a Vulcan. You can do this.
He glares at you for a second, and it looks as though he's gonna lunge for you again. But his vision clears at the last moment, and he says, "Lieutenant Chsearch, we need to get off this ship."
I never thought I'd hear myself saying this, but I'm going to need your help.
Whatever it takes. Let's get this done.
Okay, I've got a plan. I need you to recreate the shutdown sequence that you were working on when the warp bubble was created initially. I'm going to set up some pattern enhancers, and if everything goes to plan, somebody on the outside of the warp bubble should realize that they now have a pathway through to the pattern enhancers, and we can start transporting people out.
Yes, this seems like a good plan. I can't control my thoughts. I can't focus.
I can't either, but we're going to have to do this together.
You didn't tell me that, Lieutenant Research.
Yeah, I didn't want to worry you, Doc.
So as you guys get set up to recreate the warp bubble, hopefully that will allow you guys a way back into normal space and time. We'll cut to Lieutenant Commander Holm. What are you up to?
Moving up to the bridge. Hopefully there's going to be people I can just like get over to the transporter room.
Yeah, so as you get to the bridge, there are 3 officers who are at their stations. There are 2 seated at the ops and con station at the front of the bridge, and then they look completely out, unconscious, as you step through the turbo lift onto the bridge. The captain, what did I say his name was? Levine, a human male, is sitting in the command chair, and as the doors swish open from the turbo lift onto the bridge, he turns toward you and he glares and he says, "Romulans, boarding the ship!"
Okay, time to try to salvage the situation. This is going to be, I think, a presence and con, right?
What are you going to try to do?
I'm going to try to calm him down. Let him know, no, we're a rescue party. We're here to get you out of here. You and your the other 2 officers.
Yeah, so this will be a presence plus command task.
Okay.
And I will oppose it with Captain Levine.
Okay, can I spend a momentum?
Yep, you've got 3 momentum at your disposal.
Okay, I am going to spend 1, so let's go.
Okay. Captain Levine gets 1 success. So if you get 2 or better, you'll convince him to help.
Oh, thank God. 2 and 1, even though the 3rd dice was a 15.
Okay. So that's, what, 3 successes then?
Yes.
Okay, so you get 1 point of momentum back. You guys have 3 at your disposal. And Captain Levine glares at you for a moment, and then he lowers the phaser that he had leveled at you and puts it back in its holster, and he says, "A Starfleet uniform. I must be seeing things. It's so hard to tell."
Yeah, apparently we are in a warp bubble that's collapsing. We're trying to gather as much people as possible and get them out here into our real space. So we're setting up an impromptu place in the transporter room. Then we have phasotronic emitters set up in engineering that will get us there, and then we can head out.
Yes. Off the ship. Off the ship. We need to get off the ship.
Yeah. So
help me.
Right.
And he motions toward the 2 officers sitting at the front of the bridge.
Yep, I grab one and he grabs the other and we get going.
Okay. Just before you leave the bridge, I'm going to spend 2 threat to create another explosive decompression, as this time that gorgeous window skylight at the top of the bridge just sort of vanishes, and you see this pulsing, rippling, crackling energy field above you, and there's explosive decompression. And I'm going to ask you to make a difficulty 2 control plus security test, and Captain Levine will do the same thing, and tell me what you get.
Okay, I am going to go and get those 3 points of momentum spent, so let me roll these 3, see what I get. Oh, God. I got 1 success, 2 20s, and then the last die. Oh, God, no joy, 2 20s. So 1 success overall.
1 success. Okay, so I'm going to take a point of threat back, as Captain Levine also failed his test, and he and the crewman that he was carrying go flying upward through the hole that was created before the structural containment force field flashes into place, and they disappear off into this maelstrom above you. They're screaming the whole way until there's silence. And actually, you failed your test, so you are unable to hold on to. Here, I'll tell you what. No, I'll tell you what. The crewman that you're holding on to is ripped from your grasp and also pulled upward and out of the ship. And the structural integrity field snaps into place, and suddenly you are alone on the bridge.
Ah, damn it. Okay. This isn't good. Yep. So I think this is the point we switch back to the others.
Okay, yeah, we can do that. Back on engineering, what's going on?
I'm going to be helping Storak set up this shutdown sequence. I'm trying to focus on what I remember from our simulation to make sure that he does it correctly.
Yeah, and you're kind of suffering from these effects too, Lieutenant Chesirch. So as you guys are setting this up...
and I'm setting up the pattern enhancers as well.
Okay, yeah, the pattern enhancers don't require any sort of task. That's something that an engineer could probably do in his sleep. But as you guys start to recreate the circumstances that led to this warp bubble, why don't you give me a difficulty... So ordinarily, I would say it's a difficulty 2, but it's going to, now because of your psychosis setting in, it's going to be difficulty 3, reason plus engineering. But I will tell you what, you can create an advantage for me with a difficulty 2, presence plus command task. If you can convince Storak to focus on what's going on here and get over whatever personal animosity might be happening between the two of you.
I was going to try something slightly different.
Okay, yeah. What would you like to try?
I'm going to ask Storak to trust me because I don't think he's doing it correctly. And I'm going to tap one of my values, which is build it right the first time. For a point of determination.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use that to create this perfect opportunity. So you're asking for, what was it, a difficulty 3 engineering?
Yep, so this would be reason plus engineering. And so as you sort of, you're looking over Storak's shoulder and correct him on his calculations, he turns towards you and he makes a fist, and there's a look of rage in his eyes, and he says, "You would correct me?" And then he backs off.
You're just going to have to trust me, Storak. You're going to have to trust me.
All right. All right, let's do it.
So the normal 2 dice. Have we got any momentum?
No.
Done. Okay.
Miguel spent the last of it on his attempt to rescue the folks on the bridge.
Okay. I'll spend that point of determination then. Give myself a bonus die 20 from this perfect opportunity.
Yep.
And that bonus die 20 is an automatic 1.
Yes, sir.
So that's 2 successes.
Mm-hmm.
And 8 and a 10 for the others gives me another 2.
Okay, so you got a total of 4, and
Yep.
Storak also made a success, so that's 5. So you get 2 points of momentum back. You have 2 points of momentum in your bank. I've got 2 points of threat, and you set up the pattern enhancers. They sort of like a triangle of lights sort of flash, one from another, and then you guys recreate successfully the feedback surge that's going to create this unstable warp bubble. Now, what is the plan to get everybody off this ship?
I'm kind of hoping that the transporter chief on the other side is on his toes or her toes and notices that the pattern enhancers have been turned on and that they can now connect to them. So now it's a case of get everybody we can through the transporter as quickly as possible.
Yeah, you bet. All right. Miguel, what is Lieutenant Commander Holm doing? Nope, looks like he's maybe talking to somebody. Okay, so everyone in engineering starts to gather into the space that's affected by the pattern enhancers, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, we're probably only going to be able to take maybe 3 or 4 people at a time, tops.
Right, yep. And Miguel, what is Lieutenant Commander Holm doing up on the bridge?
Well then, I'm gonna have to get out. There's still that one guy in the transporter room, so let's just get him ready. You can't save everyone, and yeah, I think I'm messed up. So I'm gonna need some like R&R time to just take a step back. But this is more along the lines of now I'm just on automatic. Like, okay, I gotta save what I can right now. I can't just stop and be in shock. So
yeah. So what about that? What about that crewman in the transporter room? What's your plan for rescuing him?
Technically, I'm gonna go and we're gonna get him to the engineering room. I think the guys are gonna transport him and me from the transporter room to engineering. Yes.
You just let us know when.
Okay. Well, once I get there, I'll let you know.
Okay. So as you get to engineering, or I'm sorry, as you get to the transporter room to pick up the crewman, the plan is to transport the 2 of you to engineering. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. So just as you get to the transporter room and you lift up this crewman and you're going to take him up to the pad, I'm going to use my last 2 points of threat to cause another explosive decompression as part of the bulkhead disappears. Why don't you give me a difficulty 2 control plus security test? And you've got 2 points of, or I'm sorry, fitness plus security. And you've got 2 points of momentum at your disposal.
Okay, cool. This just means I got to beat a 17, so let's go. Let's put a momentum, so it's a 3 and a 15, so 2 successes.
Okay. So this time you're able to hold on to the crewman as you, there's this force trying to rip him from your arms as there's decompression in the room, but you're able to hold on to him and stay on the transporter pad. And we'll switch back to engineering, where I imagine you are transporting these 2 guys to your location.
Yep. I'll see if I can operate the transporter remotely, and I don't know. Can I lock onto the pattern enhancers as well? Do I need to? I'll just transport.
I'm just going to say I'm going to hand wave that. You guys are able to transport these 2 crewmen into your presence, into the pattern enhancer.
Okay.
So now everyone that, as far as you know, everyone that is aboard this version of the Hyperion is now in main engineering.
Well, I'm really hoping that somebody on the other side is starting to transport folks out.
Yep, they are. It looks as if now that the pattern enhancers have been activated, the folks are starting to be transported back into normal space-time, back on Starbase 23.
Great. We'll start shuttling people through. Doc, you want to start helping people on the other side?
I'm on it. And he steps through.
So yeah, just as the last person aboard the Hyperion is being transported back into normal space-time, it appears as if the entire ship is just sort of torn apart as the this interphasic pocket universe totally collapses in on itself and becomes no more. But it looks as if the 6 people in main engineering, the 1 person that you guys met in the transporter room, have all survived, including Lieutenant Storic. So we cut back to Starbase 23, and what are you guys doing in the conclusion of this mission?
I'm not feeling well, but I think I'm going to have to write a report, all of that. But more importantly, where's One-Eye Jack?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. He turns out to be
Is
one of
there
those
a
guys who
moment
sucked up.
when our good friend Stanislav realizes that One-Eyed Jack is not coming back?
Oh no.
One-Eyed Jack was not aboard the Hyperion when
That's
the
good.
warp bubble collapsed. So actually, as you guys get back to Starbase 23, Lieutenant One-Eyed Jack is waiting for Dr. Stanislav, and he says, "Captain Levine? Where's Captain Levine?"
He didn't make it.
What do you mean he didn't make it?
The bridge itself collapsed. By the time the containment field was set up, he was sucked out into the vacuum.
Jack looks from Lieutenant Commander Holm to Dr. Stanislav, balls up a fist.
I'm
What
sorry,
does Dr.
Jack.
Stanislav say?
I'm sorry, Jack. I failed you again. I tried to do the best I could, and we tried to save as many people as we could, but unfortunately, we couldn't save everybody.
And he looks like he's going to swing at you, Dr. Stanislav, and then he drops his fist and he says, I know you did your best, Doc. I know you did your best back then, too. I know you did everything you could. It looks like you brought 7 people back from the Hyperion. It's not your fault.
Jack. Thank you, Jack. I'm so sorry. I couldn't save them all, and I just don't know what to say.
Does anyone else have any thoughts or anything they would like to do?
I'm going to check on Storak, see how he's doing.
As I think we need to get these people treated for the sickness and of course ourselves because we were exposed to it. So we'll get that going. Now that the actual Hyperion's warp engines are shut down, we can try and get that fixed. And then notify Starfleet about what happened with Captain Levine and see if the first officer is going to be present to take command for now.
Yeah, so you think that a barium sweep will dissipate any remaining radiation from that collapse R49 that caused this engine imbalance that led to the crisis. So that won't be all that difficult to do. Dr. Stanislav, you surmise that now that everyone is back in normal space-time, the psychosis will fade and any sort of neurological damage anyone may have suffered will eventually kind of heal itself. So it looks like you guys are out of the crisis, but the CO of the Hyperion, Commander CPEC, also a Vulcan, was aboard Starbase 23 at the time of the crisis, off duty. So he would take command of the Hyperion, but because there's only 7, because the crew has been so decimated, I mean, there's still lots of crew members aboard the Starbase, but it's going to be a while before Starfleet probably signs off on sending the Hyperion back out there.
Yeah, definitely. So he is temporarily in command, but during that time, it's going to be on a ship that's going to be docked for a long while.
Yes, sir. Correct.
Cool.
In the meantime, I'm going to head for sickbay.
Yeah, and so will Lieutenant Storak.
I'm going to need you in sickbay first to look at myself and Lieutenant Storak, and then I think I'm going to need you in the bar.
Well then, let's get that going, and then once we're done, I guess we'll be considered off duty to head to the bar.
Yep.
So Storak speaks up and he says, would it be okay if I joined you at the bar, I mean?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's not like you haven't done it before, but you haven't.
Lieutenant Chesirch, you saved my life. And although I find your prowess as an engineer lacking, I will not forget that.
Well, as you've told me in the past, I do make mistakes from time to time.
And he gives you a Vulcan salute.
I'll go to shake his hand.
He hesitates for a moment, and then he takes your hand and shakes it.
Oh, good. Come
He
on, I'll buy
says,
you a drink.
I would be interested to hear all about your artificial intelligence for guiding traffic around the station.
And you know what? I think I'd actually be interested to tell you about it.
Fascinating.
Oh, I hate it when Vulcans use that word.
Well then, I think
Dr.
this is the
Stanislav.
point where Jack and Stanislav try to make up.
Well, Stanislav is back at the sick bay, and he's making certain that the people that he's rescued are fully recovering. And you know, I guess Jack might come in.
Yeah, you bet.
Yep. Jack, welcome. How are you holding up?
Well, they train us in Starfleet to deal with the possibility that we might lose fellow officers. I'm just trying to stay focused on getting the Hyperion restaffed and back out there. I'm just focusing on my duty, and I'm not even sure if it's really even sunk in yet that I've lost Captain Levine and so many of my other comrades.
Well, in my time on this base, I think this is probably the greatest tragedy that we've ever suffered. To lose a captain of a Galaxy-Class starship. This is unprecedented.
I'll tell you what, she's a fine ship, and she's got a fine crew, and I look forward to the day when we can get her back out there.
It seems like it's going to be a little while since you depart again. That's
Yeah,
a
it
good
looks
thing.
like I'll be spending some time on the Starbase with you, Dr. Stanislav.
Well, normally I would say I would be rather apprehensive about it, considering our history, but it's good to have you aboard.
Well, thank you, Doctor. I appreciate you saying that. I know that you risked your life and your fellow crewmen here on the Starbase. The three of you risked your lives to do what you could for the Hyperion, and I won't forget that.
Well, in about 20 minutes or so, I ought to wrap up everything over here. I hear that Lieutenant Giserch and the commander, with his friend, are heading to the bar. Maybe you would join us over there.
Yeah, I've heard that Captain April's is a lovely place for a drink. I think I'd love to join you.
All right, that sounds great. Well, I'll see you there then.
It's a plan.
I'm starting to see a pattern here. All of our adventures seem to finish in the bar.
Well, it's a good place.
Well, we're clocking out for the day, stopping at the pub, all of that. Then do the the hot fuzz or shot of the dead quick cut. So beer getting filled and all that.
Just another day in the office.
Yep, that's right.
You bet. So that is the end of On the Bubble.
Awesome. Oh man, that was probably the most dangerous mission that we've been on so far.
Yeah, that was fun. I've got to say, it does help having a lot more threat. It really kind of makes it a bit more nail-biting.
Yeah.
Yep. That was the plan. I wanted to create a sense of tension anyway. And I don't want to, my plan is never to kill off your characters, but when there's sort of innocent bystanders in the crossfire, that raises some that's a way to create consequences for bad roles without like hurting you guys, you know?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, though, it's also along the lines of killing a PC through one roll is kind of not a good way to do it. And when you're like GMing, it's like, okay, let's just do a series of things. Or does the PC risk his own life to the point he's willing to take that risk that he's going to die?
Yep. I agree.
Yeah.
Cool, guys. I'm going to stop the broadcast